Hi, welcome to The Perspective. We are women of faith and wives of elders, and we're bringing topics today that we hope will entertain and enlighten you. I am Linda Pemberton.
And I'm Terry Jackson.
And I'm Lupe Noyola.
And welcome to The Perspective.
This is our Glory Girls segment because women are glorious and the glory of men. Maybe Christian women worry or wonder why we're even having this segment, why it's even important, to have a beauty tip. And true, it's not the most important thing. There are other things about ourselves and our character and women's character that are definitely more important than the outward appearance. I also know that all women are different. There are some who really are put not a whole lot of importance on outward appearance, and they have their reasons. It's personality, and there are other women who do. Those who do, God-fearing, God-loving Christians, they kind of tend to maybe feel a little bit like, I don't know, maybe this is not right. Maybe I shouldn't be putting so much attention on what I look like on the outside. But I'm here to tell you that it is perfectly okay. And I think we should. And I think it's appreciated. And I think it's appreciated by your family. I think it's appreciated from your husband. Your outward appearance can reflect what's on the inside. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to give kind of beauty tips, because there's a lot of women out there who want to look, maybe accentuate their features that they have that are beautiful, and they just don't know how. So I'm not an expert, but I do love it. It's how I express myself creatively. It's how I love trends, and I love fashion, and I love home interior and hair and makeup. It's just who I am, and girl, I am not ashamed of it. So I want to share that part of myself with you. So here we are, ladies, and I was thinking that my beauty tip for the week would be eyebrow shaping. Okay, so why eyebrow shaping? It's a good place to start.
Yes,
that's why. Because as you age, and these are for women, say 30s and 40s, your face shrinks.
Looking at me, folks.
Where does that leave me? I'm way over here.
Yeah, your face falls. As your face falls, I'm always like, okay, forehead, where are you going? It does. It falls, and your cheeks fall, and everything falls. So when you... Well, it does.
I know. That's what's happening to me. I'm falling.
I'm falling. It's down here, my whole face. So eyebrow shaping is a great way to shape your face. And I know it sounds strange, but try doing it. When you shape one eyebrow and leave the other one and look in the mirror, you'll see all of a sudden, you're like, wow, it almost looks like you had an actual eye lift. Then that's what it does. It lifts your eyes. It opens up your face. Yes, it makes you look more awake. And a lot of people are afraid of doing it because they don't know exactly how to do that. So I would recommend, if you're not normally doing it, to go. There's lots of places you can get it done for $5 to $10. They'll do it for you. They'll tell you what to do. It's the threading. And there's other places you can go, waxing, threading. I've done threading once. And it's easy, and they'll shape it for you, and they get you started. And then get a nice eyebrow pencil and fill in, because again, when you get older, you lose, the hair. And a big trend, the big trend is now thick painted on eyebrows. Okay, that's for the youngins. If you want to do that, that's fine. But when you're older, don't put 2 caterpillars on your face. It just doesn't work. But eyebrow trends, it all changes. In the 90s, it was like real thin.
Tattoos might not be, because a lot of people tattoo that. And if it changes a lot,
yes, and it changes.
Can you imagine?
You're kind of into, into the trends, and you might say, well, I'm not into trends. Well, you don't necessarily have to be into trends, but everybody, I don't care who you are, nobody these days is getting a bouffant hairdo. Okay, everybody does trends,
That's
whether
true.
you want to admit it or not.
Yep.
Okay, we all do. None of us dress, you know. So anyway, yeah, I think that you go in, you fill them in just a little bit. I like to use, if you're looking at more of a high-end eyebrow pencil and eyebrow powders, the employees there, they're really good at giving you
Helping
your
out.
color. Yes, they'll give you a color match. They'll tell you what to buy. They'll tell you how to use it. So it might be, good first time to go in and they'll, once you've gotten them shaped, they'll tell you how to work your eyebrows. And even if that's all you do, if it's just your eyebrows, that just is going to make a world of difference. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more awake. Everyone should try it once. It's really easy. Go in. You don't have to know anything about it. Go in and get it done.
I was going to say, even at my
And
age.
you've done it, Mom,
I've
and
done
it's
it.
amazing.
I've been there. And even when I
Yes.
do my own sometimes, which, I see the difference. I don't do it that often, which I should, but I notice that my eyes tend to, because she's right, your eyes tend to kind of droop, because I always had big eyes, and all of a sudden, where are they,
Yeah, you've just
They droop.
It
helps.
lost 10 years of age. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want
Today's
that?
topic that I'm bringing up is online dating. And this is because we get a lot of questions about this, and it's definitely, a concern, and we want to approach it from a Christian perspective. Is it a faith? Is it okay for a Christian to explore this area to try to find someone that they could marry? And I brought with me today my cousin, Laura Dalros. I want to introduce you to her today, and she's going to be part of this discussion with us. I have some stats that I would like to read to you. This is not going to get me any online dates, okay? I know. You don't have to write in and give me that hint. All right. I found out that there are over 7,500 online dating sites. So that's a lot. And Match is number one. They have the most users, I guess you would say, 23.5 million. All right. eHarmony is responsible for 4% of the U.S. marriages, and they, especially for Christian marriages, that they feel like they found most of that through eHarmony. And the reason that the Christians seem to like that one the best is because there's over 400 questions that you have to answer in order to find if you a correct match. And I thought that was pretty interesting. 400. You don't even get that in a job interview, right? Over 3 million messages are exchanged daily. Okay, 49% of people say they have tried it. That's a pretty significant percentage. 59% say that it's a good way to meet people. All right, 66% have actually, who have tried it, have dated, gone out and met somebody, went on a date. All right, a fifth of the committed relationships began online. So 17% of those of marriages say they began online. And the largest segment of the population that uses online dating is the 18 through 24-year-olds, 27% of the population. And then it just continues to go down from there. The smallest population is 3%, and that's the 65 plus people. The average online dater spends $243 a year for this service, which equates to about $20 a month. And so that's why people see it too as a very affordable way of trying to meet somebody. But you got to remember, half of the people say they lie on that profile. So that was pretty interesting. So first I'm going to turn it over to Laura. Just pick her brain and have her just tell us her experience with this, good, bad, otherwise maybe her warnings or her recommendations.
Okay. Well, first of all, my daughter went online and she was dating and she only dated one person that she met online, and she married him.
Yes.
Yes. So that's a success
Yes,
story.
so that's a success story. She was at a place where there was nobody at the church that she was going to be able to find somebody. It's a small church. So she went online, and that's how she decided to do it. And it worked out well for her. I don't even know what site she went on, but it was a good experience for her. But my thought really was you need to be so honest, and you need to realize that people lie online. I think they're out just for a good time. So I think it's just the standards you have. Yeah, so I think that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. Yes, exactly. You need to be secure in what you want before, just like regular dating. I think you need to set your parameters. I think you need to think about what you do on a date, morally, whatever. I think those are things that you need to be secure in and go into dating that way, especially. Those were the things. Because if you don't have those standards ahead of time, then you're going to be caught off guard when you're dating, and you're not going to be thinking about what you're looking for and what's important to you. So I think it's the same. Regular dating, when you meet somebody, or online dating, I think it's all the same.
Well, you do have to be very careful. I mean, like I said, maybe I'll touch into it. 10% of sex offenders use dating sites. So, I mean, you have to know these things before you go into them, I think. And so Dr. Phil, one of his suggestions on this because of this is he says, remember, there is the sex offender registry. So, check that out. They're supposed to register. And that shouldn't be your only, stopgap if they're not on the sex offender. Yeah, I can go forward. No, but that is one way. You should be verifying everything, all the information. 1 in 10 are scammers. Okay, they are out. More people have been ripped off, lost money. They say they estimate over $54 million has been lost, stolen from people who've gone onto these online dating sites. So that's something to be, you never give out personal information, just like you wouldn't if someone called. You don't give out credit card information. If they're asking for money, that should be a huge red flag. They should not be asking for money. They also say that 53%, and these are people that they poll that use the online sites, 53% say they exaggerate about themselves. And the women exaggerate most about their looks.
I just never understand that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that seems so counterproductive to exaggerate about your looks, as if you're not going to meet, you're not going to see that she's not quite what you described yourself to be. Like, how do you like it? Then how do you say,
right.
I thought you were...
They use younger pictures, almost always. 20 bit younger pictures. And the men, though, where they lie...
They have big muscles.
Okay, tell me what you think the men then say that they lie, or exaggerate, I should say.
How much money they make.
Their job.
Yeah.
Which I thought is interesting, that the women, they're going to exaggerate most about their looks, and then the men exaggerate most about what they make.
Isn't that what's important to women? We want to look nice. We know we think.
Right. Well, because that is what men are looking for, or at least that's how you've been expressed all your life.
Okay, maybe I'm not 120 pounds, but once he gets to meet me,
I'll lose
he'll
weight.
like my personality, because I'm such a good person.
Right.
Yeah. It's always a diet. We also have a friend, I think you all know her, that she went through the online. But what she did, whenever she met someone that she liked, they met at the church with a pastor.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was going to recommend.
Oh, wow.
And so they both knew that it's for real. Her testimony is real. His testimony is real. So
when you find somebody willing to do that,
or have their pastor, if
Yeah.
they're saying that they're Christian, right? If they're
it's an older couple, the one I'm talking about is an older couple, and they were willing to do that.
Yeah.
And they met and they got married, and they're still married. And
That's a great idea.
right. In fact, yeah.
Well, and that was my thought as well. I think you should always meet family and friends.
Right.
Because if they're not willing to let you meet their family or their
Right.
friends or their coworkers, whomever, that's going to give you a huge idea of who they really are as well. You're going to know if it's natural. You're going to pick up on
Online
the
dating, in a sense, I don't know how your daughters felt, but I would think in a sense it's almost like going on a blind date.
Yes, it is.
Oh, definitely. There's too
don't
much
know.
that's still unknown.
You don't know what you're getting. You don't know how much of it is true. You don't know. But at the same time, it's how you date anybody.
Yes.
Really getting to know who
It
they
is,
are
yes.
is
Exactly.
not easy. And even if you've known that person for a long time, there are still underlying things that, you got to kind of get through and weed through. And
That's right.
it's a lot of work.
Yes, you should never meet them alone. The
No.
first meeting should
No.
never be alone. You
Yes.
should say it should be like a double date,
Yes.
or
Yes.
Maybe
Or meet them somewhere.
Right.
Take someone with you and meet them at a place. Maybe go to jam. I'm saying jams because everybody in San Antonio
Very
knows jams.
public, especially
Very
the
A
first
public
time.
place the first time and go with someone else and see what their opinion, your friend's opinion about that person,
Definitely.
And I don't think the individual should mind. I mean, if they're on the up and up and
Yeah.
they also,
If they mind, that should be a
that's a
red
danger
flag.
sign. Yeah,
That should
exactly.
definitely be a
Right.
red
Well,
flag.
yeah,
Yeah.
because we're talking about Christian dating.
Exactly.
Christian
and that's
dating,
what I
yes.
thought was interesting about eHarmony. I mean, and that was what Dr. Phil said. Make sure you research these sites. If you have over 7,500 sites, all of
Yes,
them.
that's
I mean,
true.
you're going to think there's farmers. I mean, those for
Farmers.com.
farmers.com. Okay, so there's so many
Yes.
that specialize, and some of them are just for hooking up. I mean, it really is.
Yes, that's what
they're
they're
just
made
wanting
for.
to meet somebody, and it's very prolific. Okay.
It's that swipe right, swipe left.
No, that's exactly right. So
Some of
What
them
was
can
that
be
that you said
dingy.
about cat call? What? Cat?
Okay, catfishing. It's
I
called.
heard that phrase and I had no idea what that was.
They steal somebody's profile. They take pictures that are not them,
Yes, yes.
and
So that's
they
called
make up a profile. They say, I'm a pilot, I fly here and there, so I can't meet you very often. That was another flag. If they have all these excuses of why they can't meet you, that's another flag. Scratch them off.
So back to the question on, I like that topic about how people do say that you should look in your local church
Yes.
for somebody
First, or-
that you have that in
Yes.
common. Like how I don't know, how important do you think that is? Or maybe not at all. I don't know.
Looking in your church first before you go to
Yeah, or maybe it's lack of faith. Like God will
question
provide.
that I had.
Yeah, that
Right,
question that you had, because I've heard that too.
Yes. And I think they need to pray about it, because I do know that happens a lot where there's nobody to date in their group.
Exactly. If you go to a
so
small
many times,
church,
yes.
yeah.
Want to be married. They
Right.
desire to be married. And so I understand where they're coming from on that.
Yes.
And I think that we can be in a position to try to help. To me, if I had to do this, I would, if someone said, no, I don't want to meet your pastor, then I know that that's not what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a man of God, if his pastor can vouch for him,
Yes.
that says something,
That says
right?
huge amount.
And I think there are ways that you still could do this, and but again, you're right. I think it's something that they should pray about, and if they don't feel a peace in moving forward, they
Right.
shouldn't do that, right?
Right.
Because it always comes down to the Lord, His will, who you're going to marry. Is this a Christian, a real, genuine Christian? What He cares about is that we're not unequally yoked. It boils down to that. And either way, if you meet them in the church or if you meet them online, it still comes down to, do they love the Lord? Do they serve the Lord? Who are they? And I personally don't see anything wrong with online dating. But as long as use wisdom, take precaution, follow all these steps, talk to other people, your parents or friends that you can trust, that they have wisdom, and don't be allowed to be strung along and just use a lot of caution.
It's the same though without online dating. I mean, there are people who go to churches to meet
Yes, that's true.
good people. I'm only familiar with men who will do it because they're looking for a sweet girl, somebody they know who might be faithful and things like that. So it's the same.
It is the same.
Yes, so you need to be careful no matter where you meet anybody.
right.
And that goes back to the same thing, in my opinion, that you have to have your standards set out. You need, maybe write them down. I think always when you write something down, it solidifies it in your mind. You totally
Well,
understand
and you
what
also
you really
know
want.
whether your prayer's being answered. I
Yes,
mean,
that's
I
true.
go back to me and Mike, which blew me away. I had wrote a list of what I expected and what I was praying for, because I thought, okay, then emotion, I can't get too emotional, right? Because because you can get carried away
yes,
emotionally.
absolutely.
And if I have a list that I have been seeking the Lord about, and then check, you know, before we ever talked about it later on, he had done the same thing. He had made a list, and you know, and he was very specific, which blew me away. I thought I was specific, but I wasn't as specific as he was.
Someday you gotta tell
I mean, yeah, because he even did the color of the hair, the color of the
how
eyes.
funny.
Wasn't that specific.
Wow.
I said, well, I need to be taller than me because I'm such a big girl. I was always, you know, very self-conscious. So the Lord answered. So when he did, I could go, wow. You know, as we started dating and we figured out, you know, we believed the same. And,
Oh, that's
you know,
funny.
we looked up, and then later on, he showed me his list and I showed him my list, and we were blown. That was after we got married. But
So after a couple of years, did you go, man, I should have been more specific?
I think that you could apply that to here. You need to be very specific,
Yes.
like you said, what you're looking for,
Yes.
and make sure it's not an emotional thing, but what are you looking for in a mate, and then put it to the Lord in prayer. You know, always. You know, that's the most important thing. But is always make it a matter of prayer. So, okay, Terry, would you, if you had to?
That is so funny. I was going to ask you that. Now you're going to ask me that.
Linda says, but it's my.
You know what? Okay, what are you going to ask me? I cut you off. I'm assuming you're going to ask me if I would do it.
Yes, let's say that you were
Yeah.
available again
Yeah.
on the market.
You know what? I'm so shy with social media for some reason.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Although I don't stick my nose up at people who
Yes,
do
no,
it
no.
at all.
And that's, I think, why it is
At
most
all, but
the
I have
younger
thought about
generation.
it because we're going to do this segment. I thought, could I do that? I would be so shy.
I know, right?
And maybe overly specific, like I have a zit on my nose, just so that they're not so disappointed, you know, when they see me. I'm 5'0", I have frizzy hair. I don't know, but I would be real shy about it. Real shy. I'm one of those.
Yeah.
I think it would just have to be organic, like
But
run
I think
into the
that's why it's so
grocery
popular
store.
with
I
the-
don't know. I have no idea where you would meet people.
Well, right. But I
That
think
is
where it would
the
be with
issue.
younger
That is
generation.
the issue.
I think that's the main thing, especially with Christians.
Yes.
Go to a bar. I can't go to a bar.
Yeah.
You know, how am I going to meet
Well,
them?
Yeah, when you're wanting to get. That's what I was saying. You go to a grocery store.
Yeah, right?
Oh, I had a creep follow me in the whole produce section. And I knew he was
Were you
going to
there
ask
on
me
a Saturday
something.
morning,
And
Terry?
finally he says, "Are these tomatoes good?" I'm like, I don't know. Go away. You're following me around the whole grocery store. Stop.
Right.
It was
right.
so creepy. Yeah, that's not a good place to meet people.
Tomatoes.
Would you meet somebody? Would you do that?
Oh, I don't think I would, you know, personally. But I don't have, I'm not against this, and I'm not saying it's a lack of faith, so I'm not trying to discourage anybody from that. And I would be more than willing to help somebody with their profile, meet
you know, I
them,
think
take them out to eat with that person.
It's easy for us to say that we've been married so long.
Right.
But we haven't been in that position
I wouldn't wanna get out on
as
the
a
dating
man or a
scene
woman
anyway.
saying, you know what, I don't want to spend the rest of my time alone. And,
Exactly.
you know, I don't have all the time in the world.
Right.
Especially a woman, if they
Right.
want a family.
Right.
So, yeah, I could definitely see. So, I don't know. Being put in that place, I could just be all over it. I have no idea.
And probably if you had
Yeah, it's
somebody
hard
to
for me
encourage
to
you.
relate to it right now because
You don't have the need.
I don't.
Right.
And I never had. So I don't know. I have no idea what that would be like.
But I'm thinking, if you do have your safeguards, if you know the dangers,
the
you've done your
important thing.
research, and you talk to your pastor, people who you know care for you and will watch guard over you. That's their job, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Get them involved.
Right.
Clue them in. And I'll offer our services.
Right?
If you want to do this, contact us, okay?
I just read this book a while back. It's called Unbroken by Laura Dalros, and I really enjoyed it. The reason I'm saying this is because maybe you would want to read it, because I'm going to recommend a movie to you. The first movie by Laura, based on this book, was Unbroken. It's the first half of the book. And now, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm so excited. And I've seen the previews, and they look awesome. I can't wait to see it. And this is about when the war ended. This is when his battle began, and that's what the movie is based on. And it's also is sharing the next amazing chapter of his life. When he came back to the States and worked, what's happening to him. He's going through all these different things, and with being a drunkard, just things that came from the past, from the war and everything, how he had to work through it. And it also shows the most marvelous salvation message. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing. Anytime I get to see a movie where the gospel is presented, and then the way he presents the gospel, it is just marvelous, and how the Lord he just came to the Lord with such a marvelous grace, and where he receives forgiveness and redemption and amazing grace. So I can't wait to see the movie, and the reason I'd like for you to go see it is because I just know it's going to be a good movie. Also, what makes it exciting is that Billy Graham is the one that he listened to where he got saved. And Billy Graham's grandson is playing the part of Billy Graham. And to me, I find that so exciting. And then the way he presents the gospel, it is just marvelous. And you can't go wrong when the gospel is presented. So I'm recommending it. Hi, on this segment, we are going to discuss something that I think is just so exciting and, to me, very important. We're going to be talking about whether we should stand/kneel during the national anthem, or when the flag is being presented. And I want to present a little bit about how the division that is being caused by some NFL players kneeling, and it's caused a lot of divisiveness, a lot of disagreements within our country. I just feel like they're kneeling because they have some reasons about racism, about what's going on, and they feel like something's wrong with our country. Until that gets settled, then they'll stand. And I feel, what if we all did that? I have my own America's not perfect. I have my own personal things. Let's just say for abortion, I'm against it. And not until they fix this law will I stand. So, and what about the policemen? They're also being killed. Not until they don't kill any more policemen, then they'll stand. So we all have our disagreements, why we should or why we shouldn't. And as an American, I have the right, and so does everybody else. If I want to kneel, that's my prerogative. But if I want to make a stand, I have that prerogative. As a Christian, the Bible doesn't tell me whether I should stand or kneel before the American flag. But as a Christian, the Bible tells us to honor our country, show proper respect to everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, and honor the emperor. And that in 1 Peter 2, verses 13 through 17, it tells us that. So, Linda, what do you think about this matter, about this issue?
I do see both sides. I do. I'm very patriotic, all right? But I have also seen that the flag represents, and how it's treated is also, again, defined differently by so many people. I have seen, because my son was a Boy Scout, my husband was a Boy Scout, my dad was a Boy Scout. I've done a lot of Boy Scout stuff. And when my son was a Boy Scout, my husband traveled a lot, so I ended up being, den mom and involved in a lot of that. And they would have people from the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, come out, and they would show them the proper, how to fold the flag, how to put the flag up. And then they would go into lots of detail about how you take care of the flag. He said the only time that a person should wear the flag is like one of those lapels, and any other way is dishonoring the flag. So that was from his perspective, right? Okay, and then I have people that I know that consider it almost idolatry to put so much, from a Christian perspective, the way they look at it, to put their heart over their hand over their heart. Are they putting more allegiance to the flag than they are God, in their personal convictions? So
it almost looks like worship,
they're
idol worship.
That they're putting that before God, or that it looks like they're putting country before God. And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying there's these wide spectrums. And actually, I was very upset when I'm not a football person, but I heard about all the scuttle everybody was doing, and I was like, well, that's awful, And then I started thinking about it because, my son played football, and I read where he said, he first just sat on the bench, and then he realized, the offense, and he said, he felt like this was an honorable way to show his protest by doing a kneel, because athletes, if someone gets hurt on the field, what do? They kneel. They stop what they're doing and they kneel until that person is carried off the field. So it's not a sign of disrespect from an athlete's perspective. If the coach wants to get all of the athletes' attention, what do they ask? Gather around, take a knee. And they all kneel to show that they have their undivided attention, to what the coach is going to say. And then it was also, I heard this and I thought, well, that's very interesting. We kneel to pray. Come before the Lord and kneel. So it wasn't a sign of disrespect. So I said, well, that is an interesting concept, that it wasn't meant to disrespect all of America, or disrespect the flag or the vets. In fact, he thought that was one way of showing respect that, to the country. And I thought, okay, well, I can see that. I can see it as a peaceful protest. And I don't want us to ever come to the place where we're forcing someone to be patriotic, because think of countries who do. I've read things where they, like North Korea, you have to have a picture of the emperor in your house, And Germany during, World War II, if they didn't do this, they were considered suspicious. So I am so proud of America. I still think it's the best country. People are pouring in, doing everything they can to get here. But I also thought about this too. It was a peaceful protest at a time where we were having not peaceful protests.
That's true.
Very, very, things were getting out of control, right? And they still are. I mean, we still are having problems that way.
And my thought process is, I don't like it because I'm very patriotic, and I think you should respect the country and respect those who fought for you and all of that. But at the same time, I think sometimes we don't always have the same perspective as others.
Yes.
We don't see the trials they've gone through or whatever. So they do have a different perspective. Just like I don't think people always see what we think about, abortion and being, faithful to your husbands or being pure. There are things that we stand for that people think we're crazy over. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, he has the same right, and we do have rights as Americans.
I think it's helpful, though, to give credence or acknowledge that there is another side to the story, and they're not bashing the military. Not all of them, and most, if not all, are very sincere. So I just feel like even though they may be sincere, I think they're sincerely wrong. So what about the argument is that these football players have their right to do what they're doing as Americans, but they're also paid football players that have a boss. Exactly. Yes, that have a boss who's telling them look, this is not the time, this is not the place, this is, this. They have every right to say these are the rules. As your
Exactly.
employer, this is you want to take a knee as a citizen?
Right.
Go for it.
Right.
Do what you want. You have that right. But here, you're getting
Exactly.
paid to do a job.
Right.
This is not your job. That's what they're.
And there
that
are
is.
consequences. That's right.
Just assume they don't do it and just do their jobs. And I'm not even a football fan at all. But I'm just like, do your job.
If I put something on Facebook, right, that and then I try to go out and get a job, that employer has every right to say,
Yeah, you're not fit for this job.
totally agree there too. And I like
Yes,
the point that you bring out. Your husband having been a police officer, you come from that perspective, and that's a scary perspective too. How a lot of the country's turning against them.
The way I see it, and I have a little bit of a different perspective with talking. I spent, y'all know, 15 years or 16, close to 17 probably years in Mexico. So my kids went to Mexican schools, and they were extremely patriotic in the schools there. And my kids every single Monday participated in it was a whole school group honoring the flag. Right. Like it's this whole march. And if you got picked to be part of that march, which my daughter did, I mean, that's like a huge deal. And all the kids participated. I made my kids. And Mexico is far from a perfect country. It's probably one of the most corrupt in the world. And yet, we stood there and honored that to participate, to show allegiance that we're living in this country that I did love. Right. And was it perfect? Absolutely not. But their flag also stood for democracy, and their flag also stood for freedom, and their flag also stood for justice for all. So it stood for those things. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. Is the United States perfect? Absolutely not. But the flag has meaning. Yes. The way I taught my kids that they honor and they participate, and we are no better, and we're living here, they should show respect for their friends, for the Mexican people, participate in that in the same way I feel like we owe that here too, if not more.
Yes.
And so, I just kind of have that different.
That's my personal
Right.
point of view as well.
Yeah.
And that's how I would teach my kids.
But
We do have other rights, but at the same time, I do believe as well that they're being paid by these people. I couldn't have, when I was working, taken a pro-life poster and pasted it on my wall. Right. Yes. So at the same time, you can't do those things when you're being paid. So if the NFL or whomever is telling them you can't do that, they have to respect that or quit. I could have left.
Yes, and I believe that every American has a right. They don't want to put their hand over the heart. They don't have to. No. They have every right. Christians have the right. You can believe what you want to believe, which makes our country so great.
Right.
has the freedoms that we have.
Because our allegiance is not to our country. It is towards God first, then our country. We're one nation, where? Under God. He's the one that should be.
Well, that's even divisive now.
That is very divisive, right?
And that, I think, it boils down to, we really are in a crisis in our nation because it has become so divided. And I keep thinking of that verse that says, a house divided, it cannot stand.
That's the verse I had here I was going to share.
And that we need to really pray, for the country. Are we going to be ripped apart?
And so I guess we'll leave it at that.
And that is your perspective.
And that is my perspective, and I'll go all the way.
And I will fight for you to have your opinion and your perspective. So at the end of the summer, I like to go to the beach and I like to read a book because I don't get a lot of time to read. So this was the book I took with me this year, and it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Grace of God. It's by Jep and Jessica Robertson. Some of y'all know them. They're the Duck Dynasty. I think most of y'all know them. Anyways, I have read a lot of their literature, not just Jep and Jessica's, but the whole family. This has been my favorite so far. They are so honest, and they just bare their souls more than I think I would have been able to. And it covered everything that I have had to deal with as a pastor's wife in counseling. I was amazed that the experiences that they have gone through, how God has brought them, what God has brought them through, has been amazing. And it truly is a testimony to the grace of God and what He can do in your life, no matter what your background or what you've been through. And so I do highly recommend this. Look for it. Again, it's The Good, the Bad, and the Grace of God by Jep and Jessica Robertson.
So now we're going to start with the next segment. And this one is about the age-old question, is can men and women be friends? And I'm here with my friends, my lady friends here today to ask them what they think. Lots of different opinions, and one thing I'll go ahead and ask. I was watching different videos and interviews and stuff, and other people's opinion out there about how they feel about that subject, and it was very interesting to me because you had this one guy. I don't even know who he was, but he was interviewing people on the street, and he was asking everybody, can men and women be just friends? All the girls said, yeah, sure, men and women can be friends. Why not? Every single guy said, nope. Nope.
It's true.
It doesn't happen. Men and women cannot be just friends. So I thought that was very interesting. There's a reason for that, right? There's got to be a reason for that, why women think one way and why men think the other way. And I don't know. I just kind of wanted y'all's opinion on can men and women be friends?
That's interesting that you said that, because I posed it, to my husband, and we are always the opposite of everybody, right? Because I was like, no, I don't think so. And he's like, yes, of course they can. So we throw everything off. We got into a big discussion about that, but I think it all comes down to the definition of friends, right? I mean, so I mean, it all depends upon how they define.
Right. Okay.
And so when you say friends, I don't know what they're saying.
Right.
See, right?
Right. So let's talk about single friends, young high schoolers. Say you're just hanging out, but that is how you get to know. How you get to know people.
It's a great way for a relationship to start, for sure.
Yes. You have your young people's relationship, hanging out with a group of people, getting to know somebody, versus having that one intimate, I tell all my secrets to, guy friend. How does that work? Because I hear young girls will say, he's my best friend. I tell everything to that person. And that guy is hanging in there for that. Most guys aren't in an emotional relationship unless they have romantic interest.
Yes.
I would say most guys don't. I don't think they're going to put up, because listening, putting in all that effort without hoping that it's going to go somewhere.
In fact,
Girls bond on emotion, and guys, most guys don't. Not in the beginning, they don't. I'm not saying you don't.
Guys' relationships, they don't need to talk. Really, I mean, they've
It's
done
more
studies
hanging
on
out and
that.
doing
It's more
things.
the time. Like if they
yes.
go fishing, they don't have to sit there and fill in the whole. Whereas us ladies, if we go, if we
go fishing, we'd be talking the
we're
whole
gonna
time.
be talking and not baiting. So it's totally different what they're trying to get out of that relationship.
Although when you talk about the high school age group, if it's kind of a group thing and then it develops into a friendship, so it can, but
To me, a male and a female relationship, close friends, and I've always said this, the girls know it, I would always tell my girls, boy, girl, best friends, it doesn't work.
Somebody gets hurt.
Somebody's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
They may not say it at that moment, they'll go along for a while, but after a while, can only take so much. It's going to come out. Somebody's going to get hurt.
I read something looking at this that really blew me away. It was the Meet Me poll, and Meet Me is one of those sites that you can, it's not just for, it's to meet friends, it's just meeting people. But they asked this, they actually polled this, and I thought this was very interesting. So this is basically young people. It said half of them said that yes, they have fantasized about a relationship with their best friend of the opposite gender. 40% actually have had a relationship with their best friend of the opposite gender, and 2/3 said they were definitely willing if the opportunity came up. So it's like, and then when Shape Magazine asked this, they were saying that it is usually that. There's some chemistry there for them to be that relationship. And if someone doesn't have the boundaries and hasn't said, oh, I'm not interested in that, they can keep the relationship. But if that were to ever change, it changes.
They say, this is what this one guy, several guys said when they interviewed that I can be friends with a girl if I'm not physically attracted to her. But if she's the least bit attractive,
Then it's going to.
you're automatically, you're not, guys don't put in the time with the female of the opposite sex unless there is something back there. It's just how they're wired that way. And from the time they're really little, I mean, my daughter-in-law just told me, like my little 4-year-old granddaughter in preschool, she has a little friend that's a boy who tried to kiss her. That's what she said. He tried to kiss me, Mommy. And that's supposed to be her friend. We're just friends. You know? But boys, they want to try to kiss you.
Different, yes.
They're just different from the time they're 4 years old. You know, can you blame her? She's, you know, can you blame him? She's adorable. Anyway, I mean, so yeah, that, and then they were saying that that if you're interested in a girl who has a lot of guy friends, then there's that conflict. Yes, because all of a sudden that guy doesn't want you to have all those guy friends anymore because he's going to feel threatened.
Yes,
And that's fair.
Too.
So then there's that, there's that conflict there. She's saying, but they're just my friends, and he's thinking like a guy, saying,
Exactly.
no, they're not. No, they would date you if you would want them to. And girls are so, young girls especially, they just can't wrap their mind around that. They can't wrap their brain
Because
around.
they don't think that.
They just don't
Girls
think
don't.
like that. And there's
Most.
nothing wrong with a guy who was interested in that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with
Right.
it. It is,
Right. That's
it is
natural.
how they
It's
are.
normal.
But you need to be aware. Not that you can't have guy friends and go out in groups. I mean, how else are you going to know who to
Exactly.
date? Right? Okay. Anyway.
Well, and like work situations, even if you're married, you know, I mean, you can have friends, right? Yes. But you have to have boundaries. You know, you need to be careful because there have been enough. We all know.
So what about on social media when your colleague wants to then be friends with you on social media, and then maybe they private message you, and then
She's shaking her head no, but I would say that's okay.
So then if that's okay, it's something you would share with your husband, that your husband is 100% knows about that relationship, right? So from what I understand, because I don't do social media, you have to keep yourself in check, that it's not all of a sudden you're trying to hide.
But Mike and I, we keep all of that very open.
You have to.
We have to. He can get onto my social media
that's what
site
I
at
was
any
gonna
time.
say.
I can get on his at any time.
Right.
As soon as you start keeping secrets,
Right.
then you're already walking on that cliff.
Yes.
You're without any boundaries and any guardrails.
Yes.
So you have to have.
And if there's any kind of unhappiness in your marriage, it's just too easy.
You're causing trouble there.
Well, I think in general, especially the workplace, not just the workplace, I think in general, not only social media, as long as you have that openness where I could check Danny's or whomever anytime and he could check mine, I think that's fine, because then you know, oh, somebody could see what I'm doing. And you're going to
Accountability is so
yes.
important.
But just dinner or lunch, I would not want my husband going to lunch. Even, I know some of his coworkers who I adore, you know, they're funny. But that opens a door, I think, personally. I think that opens a door of temptation. Yes. And once you become intimate in your thoughts and those kind of things, even if you're at work, you're not dating, but you're in the same office space or whatever, once you start sharing personal stuff, I think you've got, it's a fine line to walk. It's a hard thing to be, in my opinion, friends with the opposite sex.
Yeah, I think
especially when you're in a relationship.
We have a lot of friends like that, where, you know, Mike's friends at work, you know, and they'll go out to eat and, you know, at lunch, you know, but then a lot of times we'll all go out as two couples, you know, hey, y'all want to meet it, you know, so I'm actually, I know them. You know, I'm friends with, you know, the husband, you know, that type of thing.
Well, I think also for us whose husbands are also in the ministry and counsel other women, there even needs to be a boundary there where when they meet, it's in a public place, or I go with him, or whatever. You always keep the doors wide open, you know, wherever you are.
I've seen it happen too often. Where
the secretary
it was just innocent and they really were friends, but there's a line that all of a sudden gets crossed and there's no going back. It's just an emotional line, not a physical line, nothing like that. So
a female needs an emotional connection with their spouse if you're married, or with your boyfriend, or what, and even that emotional connection, you need to be careful with for women. However, you need that connection with somebody. So if you find yourself connecting more emotionally with the person of the opposite sex rather than your spouse, I think that's all we always have to be reminding ourselves.
Right.
Am I telling that person
something that I wouldn't?
I haven't even told my husband.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
right.
You know, red flag, red flag, red flag. There's something wrong.
And that should be our goal always, is if we're going to have a best friend, right, of the opposite sex, it should be our spouse.
Right.
You know, that should be the goal.
Now, and sometimes our husbands can't always fulfill every part of our emotional need. Maybe y'all's can, but mine can't.
No, mine can't. No. No.
They just don't think like women do. I know.
But I don't know that we should seek that, though.
Not with the opposite
Not with the
sex.
opposite
That's
sex.
why we have
Women
female friends.
That's why it's so important.
Yes.
Yes, to cultivate female relationships. That's where it should be. And I think that's where it should be in even young girls. I think young girls, maybe they say they relate more to guys. I don't know. I have a hard time with that, sort of. But whatever, you should have at least one female friend that you really talk to, that you're really close to, that you would consider your best friend, even as a teenager and as a kid. You should have that. You should not depend on all your emotional needs on guys.
We have to make sure that they're not naive. You know, that there is not that naivety, you know, right?
Yeah.
That they understand that people look at that different. And like you said, guys look at the way they define friendships and relationships is different.
I don't think it's impossible, but I just err on the side of caution on this. Because why take a chance? I mean, when you're talking about single people, that's a different story. I think there's a little bit, I think there's a broader boundary. Yes,
It's
but
still
it
a
can
sin if it crosses that line.
Yes.
Either way. But
I think people
yes.
can get hurt, but when you're married, I think there
girls
is-
should have their closest friend
Yes.
should be a girlfriend, and the
Yes.
guys, their closest friend should be a guy friend.
Well, and if it's not that, I think you should look at it just like driving on a highway with, you know, you need to make sure there's guardrails. You have boundaries, you have lines that you will never cross.
That's right.
And being aware that the opposite sex do usually think differently
They usually
these
think
things.
differently. If a girl says, "Yeah, we're best friends,"
Yeah.
and he comes with me shoe shopping, and he helps me pick out all my clothes, and he tells me what makeup to wear and how I should wear my hair. That boy has got a major crush on you, okay? Do not fool yourself. No guy is going to spend his afternoon going shoe shopping with a girl if they don't have any romantic interest, okay? I'm just telling you, that's just how it is. Okay, they'd rather be watching football. Okay. Very good, ladies. Thank you. That was fun.
Well, that's all the time we have today. We hope that you were blessed. We would like your feedback. We want to know if this was a blessing to you, if you have any input, any topics for us to tackle next time. All right? The Lord be with you and keep you.